My name is Kevin, and this is my oral presentation on recall and forgetting. So, what is memory and how is it stored? So, according to the McGraw-Hill book, Psychology in Your Life with Power Learning, psychologists consider memory to be the process by which we encode, store, and retrieve information. The information is first encoded, which is the initial recording. Then it gets stored, which will be broken down into three parts in the next bullet point, and then it is retrieved when we need to use it. Memory goes through three different sections in the second part after encoding. Sensory, which lasts for an instant, which is the stimuli. Then it goes to short-term memory, and at this point it could be lost or stored into long-term memory, but it lasts about 15 to 20 seconds. And lastly, long-term memory, which after short-term memory, it'll be put into long-term if we do repetition of information, are constantly exposed to the information, we study it, or use it frequently enough. How can memory be forgotten and retrieved? So if we don't use memory frequently enough, we have not used it frequently enough, or at all, and or we didn't encode it, we could lose memory, lose the memory, or it could be harder to retrieve. The loss of memory through not using it is called decay. So, forgetting then designates the unperceived character of the perseverance of memories, the removal from the vigilance of conscience, and self-Pearson, which just put into perspective that memory could be seen as the loss of the memory being put away from our active conscious, which we cannot recall. To add on, there's a phenomenon called the tip of the tongue phenomenon, and according to the McGraw-Hill book, it is the temporary inability to remember information that one certain one knows, such as not being able to remember a name fully, um, but you have the first letter. So it still could be retrieved if it's not fully lost, but it's like a lock that needs a key to access the rest of information. This term is called recall. So recalling information that has once been stored but um, needs stimuli to unlock all the information. So you may remember part of it but not all of it. And you need a sort of a cue to remember everything, even if it's like suppressed. We are able to search our memory probably by actively setting up plausible retrieval cues, according to Bedeli. To further explain, retrieval cues can come in the form of a date, a face, or even a smell that can allow us to remember the entirety of a fact. Retrieval cues act as keys that unlock the memory that has been stored, but it's just harder to store. So, sometime recalling, but at times this recall can be flawed, and an example of this can be seen in the quote in the following says, more importantly, when trying to remember something, we do not blindly accept every candidate memory as veridical. So, an example of this could be said at police statements when recalling a perpetrator of a crime. Oftentimes, recalling is flawed as the person that is being recalled is typically not the person or may not be remembered correctly. And at what age do we start forming memories and using recall? You can start having short-term memories or just memories at 1 to 2 years old, but memories that we could recall later in life can be as early as 7 years old. So, according to Shinsky, toddlers over 26 months who could verbalize about the events at the time recalled it up to 5 years later, whereas those under 26 months who could not talk about it recalled little to nothing. And this varies, but again, and as explained in the next bullet point, most memories that we may form during childhood may be lost or cannot be recalled. So, um, according to Shinsky again, the phenomenon known as childhood amnesia has been puzzling psychologists for more than a century, and we still do not fully understand it. So, remembering memories from when you're 1 or a couple months old to after you're 7, you may have formed memories then, but you can't recall them or may have forgotten them. And the ability to have long-term memories comes later on. And this is just a short video on the overview of recall, ways to use it to study, um, and an operational definition on it. So, what are the ways to use recalls and examples of it? So, often ways people use recall without even knowing it is through studying. A test can ask you a variety and range of information that when studying could be difficult to remember. So, according to Brian, active recall activates the testing effect, whereby your brain is more likely to move information from short to long-term memory. This could be used as a strategy to remember information efficiently with the use of flashcards. Um, and according to the Britannica, a person employs recall, for example, when reminiscing about a vacation or reciting a poem after hearing its title. There is another term called recognition, which differs from recall. Um, so an example, it could be used, recognition is when you recognize the information but don't fully understand it, as recall goes further in understanding the information and being able to detail the information when having that stimuli. This could be understood as an example. So in a multiple choice test, you might recognize what piece of information goes what with a test. But with the fill in the blank answer, you need recall, meaning you need to remember what it says by something that was stated in the question. So how did these go together? As mentioned, memory can be lost due to many reasons, but typically it results from decay and it affects everyone, though some more severely than others. Memory can be retrieved from long-term memory at a time when stimuli is presented, which is recall. If memory is completely lost, you have forgotten and have to relearn the information. You cannot retrieve what you do not have. The way to prevent loss of memory is through frequent use of the information. We have that such through recall, studying, or applying it daily. Here are my 5 sources. Thank you very much and hope you liked it.